All right, I'm ready. All right, good afternoon, everybody. I am Matt Slomka. I am here to talk about keeping devices and data secure. So Microsoft and our Secure Future initiative can't be left behind in Teams devices space. So here to kind of talk through a couple of different categories, but really focused on how does the Pro Management Portal provide additional security for devices? How do we secure devices? And then really probably one of the bigger announcements that we didn't hide in the blog around our resource account story and how we're really going to secure and further resource accounts moving forward. So breaking it down into a couple of different sections, really going to focus on resource accounts to start. I'm going to probably spend most of my time on that. I'll hit on a little bit of how do we recommend customers protect and guard their physical Teams devices, both from a software security perspective and a physical security perspective. And then last piece is really how does the Pro Management Portal bring all that together, give IT admins visibility into what all of that looks like, and then really bridge all of it into an overall security story. And then I'll save time at the end for questions because I'm hoping everybody's got some questions as we go through this. But starting out with Teams resource accounts. Resource accounts today for Teams devices are really user accounts. They were built and orchestrated following the on-prem Active Directory model, following that Skype for Business model. And it needs to behave and function very similarly to a user account. It needs to access Teams. It needs to access meetings. It needs to read a calendar. So from an architecture perspective, it makes sense. A Teams room account needs to look like a user account, needs to behave like a user account, and have similar access levels. What doesn't make sense is from a security perspective, as you look at those user accounts, they're not functioning the same way. It's not an end user identity where an individual person knows their username, knows their password, has their multi-factor authentication token on their iPhone where they can click the approve button when they go to sign in. That doesn't work for a shared space device. So as we've kind of gone down this path into Teams and into M365 and into these cloud-based identities, we've had to build sort of a model around it with conditional access and recommending that customers lock down the devices. But it's the opposite of our secure default model. Here, for most and everything at Microsoft, we build towards a secure first and secure default model. For resource accounts today, we have to recommend to customers how to best lock down those accounts, how to best secure those accounts, and how to build that security wrapper around them. But with that, security teams come in and go, no, you need to reset those passwords every 90 days. That causes downtime. That doesn't work for rooms. That isn't the right story for a room. So then we come through and Microsoft goes, no, we don't recommend resetting passwords. That's not the right methodology to do this. But as folks go through and do that, they end up creating downtime. They create all these problems along the way. They hit multi-factor authentication limitations where security goes, you have to use MFA, you have to do these things. And while you can build it that way, you can build orchestrations around it with conditional access to deliver that, the feature set and functionality isn't the same as an end user account, and it doesn't look the same, and security teams don't love it. So all that problem statement aside, what does a resource account look like? And so with resource accounts, that same conversation there is, hey, it's a username and a password today. What we're going to transition to is what we're calling passwordless resource accounts. And what you'll see noted here is that the core technology change and the fundamental change is going from a username and a password, Matt Slomka at Microsoft.com, and then my password, to a fundamental model of a key-based exchange. So think certificate-based authentication, think a secure token that's passed back and forth between that Teams device and Entra ID. That security key is stored and encrypted locally and rotated automatically with no admin interaction, no end user interaction, and no way to steal those tokens off the device. They're bound directly to that device, improving the security posture and preventing any need to worry about somebody grabbing those tokens and stealing them. As we look at that, why are we doing this? What changes are we trying to solve for, and what problems are we solving for? And I alluded to a lot of it as we were talking through kind of the problem statements on our current architecture today. But really, eliminating the need for passwords altogether. Getting rid of those spreadsheets that I know somebody as a meeting room admin has somewhere with email addresses in one column and passwords in another column, and getting away from that security story. moving to that secure key-based authentication where it's rotating automatically and no one knows those credentials. If somebody needs to rip and replace a device, change a device, do anything there, you reset it, you regenerate a new token, you authenticate with that new token. That token is one-time use and never used again. So you can continue to rip and replace, continue to change things, but no one knows a consistent static password for those resource accounts. As we look at it from a reliability perspective, one of the key things that we found over time is organizations tend to mess with their conditional access policies sometimes. Some IT admin comes in and goes, hey, I need to restrict Android devices. I need to lock down those Android devices and say they can only log in from this location. Suddenly, you sign out every Teams Room device that's somewhere else in the world, besides whatever location that IT admin has defined. There's no signing that device back in without going to that device and signing it back in locally. This goes away. These tokens will continually try to re-authenticate. So if you block something and sign all your devices out, have a long-standing power outage, whatever it might be, the next time that device comes back online, it signs itself back in automatically, rotates its tokens, and continues to function just like it should, solving some of those downtime and operational challenges. And then at the same time, just removing that overall password management story and password conversation. As we look at it though, what isn't changing? The biggest thing that isn't changing is the account itself isn't changing, the end user experience isn't changing. The Exchange mailbox didn't move, the fact that it's a Teams user didn't change. All of that functionality stays the exact same. The only thing that changes is IT admin facing, and it's really a checkbox and Entra ID that says this is a resource account now, not a user account. Treat it differently. Other than that, every end user functionality looks exactly the same. Your end users are none the wiser to any of the changes that we've made. From a tooling perspective, the biggest thing that we're adding here is that the Pro Management Portal becomes that place to do that revocation, relocation, new token generation. All of that's done within the Pro Management Portal instead. Key benefit there being your meeting room admin can start handling those tasks rather than you needing to call your Exchange admin to reset a password or call your global admin to reset a password. Get away from a lot of that capability and methodology. So this is going to be a migration. Today, we've got 1 million plus Teams Rooms devices deployed today. We need to move them all to this model. We're building migration tooling for it. So what you see here is some screenshots that kind of talk through what that looks like. Really, it's going to be a readiness check first. Make sure that the devices are up to date. Make sure that they're running an app that supports this feature set and capability. And then from there, also making it so that you can actually just say, hey, at the next maintenance window, migrate this account. You check that box, schedule your migration, start with a single device. Don't do your whole fleet at once. Make sure everything's configured right. Migrate a single account, try it out, go through, and then you'll be able to do it in bulk as well. And now, most importantly, when's the timeline for this? There we go. When's the timeline for this? This is going to go into public preview in March. So starting in March, this will be available in public preview, supporting capabilities and methodologies for those modern Entra ID cloud-only accounts. So any accounts that are cloud-only today would be able to go through and go into that passwordless methodology starting in March and start migrating accounts in that direction. Then, as we make it into April, we will also support legacy on-prem directory accounts as well to be able to build that same capability and methodology there. As we move into June, our target is to go full general availability. Now, I'm sharing some roadmap dates here because if we find some bugs in March and April, that June date may shift slightly and may not be a June date, but goal is by June to be publicly available, full GA, to support Teams Rooms on Windows devices, Teams Rooms on Android devices, and Teams panels. That way we can cover our whole fleet of Teams devices at the exact same time. Teams phones will end up later if you go down that Teams phone path. But broadly, we want to get this out, get this available to everybody, and get resource accounts further and further secured. Happy to take questions on that towards the end. I'm going to rotate now into protecting Teams devices all up. And so while protecting those resource accounts becomes a really vital part of this story, particularly because those are the cloud accessible thing. I can try to log into any account in the world from my house by just going to office.com and typing in credentials. What I can't do is breach individual devices that way. Individual devices, you tend to need physical access to them in some fashion to get there. So we really want to focus on the resource account side of the story, but also continuing to protect your individual devices becomes very vital to this conversation. So this tends to be a couple of different pivots based on what customer you talk to and based on what your security environment looks like at a given office. Teams Rooms devices come out of the box secure by design. We run the Teams app in kiosk mode. You can't break out of the app without having administrative credentials to the device. So from a security perspective, those devices are locked down. All Teams Rooms devices automatically update at the out-of-box experience. So you take a brand new Teams device out of the box, it's going to fully update itself. That means full set of Windows updates for a Windows device, full set of Android firmware updates for an Android device, bringing it to current. Goal and objective there being, A, making sure that you've got the latest and greatest functionality on that Teams device, but also from a security first perspective, making sure that that device is fully secure, has the latest set of patches, and the latest set of everything. I know I've had some customers push back on me on this in the past, particularly with the out-of-box experience, because it takes a little while sometimes to update devices. You know, maybe you take it out of the box and you got to walk away for an hour while it downloads all of its updates. Really, the intention here is improving that security experience, making sure that that device remains secure at all times. We want it fully up to date when it comes online. We don't want it sitting on a customer's network or in a customer's environment with a vulnerability in it in one fashion or another. We want to make sure that all of that is patched. And then at the same time, as devices progress and as devices move forward, they continue to automatically update themselves. We allow a 60 to 90 day at most delay on any updates. Intention there really being, again, you're on the latest and greatest feature set, functionality, and capabilities, but also making sure that you have the latest security patches, keeping those devices secure as they move forward. So as you look at, hey, okay, great, Microsoft, you say Teams devices are secure by default. That's amazing. I don't trust you. I don't trust you. What do I do instead? How do I, as the IT admin, make sure that those devices are secure? Microsoft's answer to that, leverage Microsoft Intune. Intune gives you manageability. It also gives you visibility into those devices from an Intune compliance perspective. Now, we offer out-of-box compliance checks, so you can say, hey, is the device running X firmware build or X operating system build? That's an easy out-of-box check that you as an IT admin can go through and define on your devices. You can also write fully customizable compliance scripts if you want to check compliance, check for a specific thing, check that certain registry keys in Windows are there. You can do all of that from a compliance perspective to ensure that those devices are secure at all times. And you can actually write compliance policies to restrict and block devices that don't meet your compliance flows. If you don't believe us and you want to check that compliance, you can do that right from the devices and right from Intune. Above and beyond that, from a BitLocker and encryption perspective, Windows devices, you can enable it. We don't enable BitLocker by default on Windows devices and encryption of the storage by default. Reason being, we don't store any PII or any company data on a Teams Rooms device. So even if somebody picked up that device, walked out of an office, took it home, and got into the hard drive and started digging through, there's no meeting information, there's no company information stored on that device. So it doesn't really matter. But I do still have customers who insist that every single device be encrypted that's on their network. Great, you can do that. You can turn it on in BitLocker, and then that way, all of your devices and all your storage is encrypted, just like it is on all Android devices out of the box. Again, you can run compliance checks in Intune for that as well. If you set a policy that says BitLocker is on, you can then Intune check to say, hey, is the storage actually encrypted? And then last but not least, for Teams Rooms on Windows devices, organizations tend to be focused on, okay, great, you're putting a Windows device in my environment. What does that Windows device look like? Well, if you want full visibility into that endpoint from an antivirus perspective, we actually include Microsoft Defender for Endpoint in the Teams Rooms Pro license. So you don't have to buy a separate license for it. You don't have to bring anything else to it. We fully support Defender for Endpoint running on that device, doing all the checks, making sure that there's no vulnerable applications or no bad actors that have done anything against that device. And then last piece here before I get to Q&A, and I am doing well on time. Last piece here is security within the Pro Management Portal. From the Pro Management Portal side, our goal is to give you full visibility into how those devices are functioning. Is there configuration drift? Is there a device that isn't running Windows Update for some reason? Is there a device that has the default password set on it? Every Teams Rooms on Windows device comes out of the box with SFB as its password still to this day. With that said, you can actually detect for that, trigger for that, and trigger warnings on that so that we know that you've locked down that device. The Pro Management Portal gives you that visibility and makes sure that you know that there's anything wrong there or something that might not be working correctly. And Pro Management Portal also makes sure that you keep all of your devices up to date. Delivering updates in a consistent fashion, making sure that those updates are available, all there within the Pro Management Portal today. And then I'll end on a resources slide. I kind of call out a couple of different things here that I think are really important. We've got a device deployment playbook. The device deployment playbook walks through creation of resource accounts, creation of compliance policies, creation of Intune enrollment policies, and full conditional access policy examples as well. All of that's available there in the deployment playbook. The aka.ms/mtr security is our security white paper. That has the Windows and Android security white papers in it, walking through how we do our security by design, what all of that looks like, all the way down to Microsoft, you guys are doing Bluetooth beaconing. What Bluetooth protocol are you using for Bluetooth beaconing? That is included in that security white paper down to that level of detail, just to make sure that we address any and all concerns there. And then last piece, we did a Signals webinar. Kim Matlock and I did a webinar, I want to say that was 2 months ago now, talking through all of the different signals that are available within the Pro Management Portal. That's linked off there as well. With that, I will stop talking for a second. Any questions, comments? We've got a microphone there if anybody's got any questions for me. I've wowed everybody. Is everybody excited for passwordless resource accounts at least? Is that answering one of the big questions? Okay, that's the important part overall. I really need to make sure that that's happened. The amount of customers that have pushed back on me and said, we need this, we need some way to do this. Passwordless resource accounts has probably been the biggest ask since I joined Microsoft, and we've continued to work on it and iterate, and so I'm really excited to see that come to fruition. So with that, any questions? Otherwise, you can find me afterwards if you're too shy to ask in a group. All right, sweet. Well, thank you, everybody. Sweet. All right.